Hi, all you cave dwellers, and welcome to the Cavern Podcast. The Cavern Club, the most famous club in the world. From the Beatles and the Stones to the Arctic Monkeys and Adele. Join us on our podcast for Cavern Conversations. Each episode we talk to a special guest with real Cavern connections. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast. I'm your host, Jon Keats, and you are listening to Series 1, Episode 3. Now, today we've got a legend. Not just a legend, a punk legend. He was a Sex Pistol. He is, I think he'll always be a Sex Pistol. A member of Blondie, a Cavern Club Wall of Famer, and also an expert with boilers. Because the first thing he did when he came to our office where we record these podcasts was to point out that the pressure was very low on our boiler. He had a quick look at it, but unfortunately didn't have the right tool. But he has very kindly offered to come back and sort it out. So that's pretty much a bit of flavour where we're going today. This could be a good one. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast, the one, the very only, Mr. Glen Matlock. Now, today's guest, great quote, which I'm going to start off. To me, this is what our guest has said in another interview, which I just thought summed it up. To me, the best music is a simple song, played well, with the right trousers, the right attitude, together with the right amount of grease in your hair.
That's about right.
It is about, it doesn't get, that sums it up.
What is the right grease, though?
I don't know. We'll get into that, because I think we...
Well, let's get straight into that,
so
it's important to me. And I'm a little bit annoyed with my younger son, because it was my birthday in August.
What date's your birthday?
27th of August.
I'm 26th of August.
Oh, are you a Virgo or Leo?
I'm a Virgo.
Yeah, just about.
Just about, yeah.
Anyway, you know, with kids who are working ain't kind of necessarily got that much money. You kind of suggest a little simple present. And what I wanted was a jar of fudge, which you used to be able to get in quite a lot of places, and you can't get it anywhere now. And did he even bother trying?
He didn't even bother? Didn't even get you like a cheap one from Home Bargain or anything?
No, but it's got to be fudge. It's called fudge.
Now, is that when you go for the full, just grease back?
I like have just the right amount. I'm not...
Do you ever finish it off
I'm
with
not a grebo.
No, we wouldn't be a grebo. Do you ever finish it off with a little bit of hairspray? Just to let it hold, or do you like the way it falls naturally?
Well, I like
These things are important.
As you get a bit older...
Yeah.
57 and a third now, right? Not everybody's got as much hair as me, so I like to have it a little bit too long.
Yeah, I like to show off.
Just wind people up a little bit.
You got great hair,
just as I can. Yeah, it's only the luck of the draw. But well, having said that, and he did walk in with a hat on, but it is raining out. But I think say the difference between the Pistols and the Clash, right? Much as I like the Clash, but they all wore hats all the time for a younger age, and we never did, and they're all a bit more follically challenged than us.
I was just going to say, they must have had bad hair. You know,
hats, you got to give it room to breathe.
Yeah.
So if you put too much hairspray on,
it's good.
It clogs up the pores.
Yeah, I think I went a bit heavy today because I just wanted to show the quiff off. But
well, yeah. See, but what you got, listeners, what John's got going on, he's got a very good quiff, but I don't think it's any high-minded quiff, but he's got very shaved temples.
I've taken it right back. It's the Turkish barbers. I'm experimenting. You can still experiment at our age, you know. Anyway, our guest today...
Can you? I'm going to write that down. Right.
Our guest today, of course, is Glen Matlock, if you've not recognised those dulcet tones.
Oh, kiddos. Do you know what? About 10 years ago, I had to do a radio phone-in with this Australian bloke on his Magic FM or something. 8 o'clock in the morning, just before the school run, I had to be the mystery caller, you know, just say a few things and people had to phone in and guess who it was. I was really chuffed about it. First person thought I was Marty Wilde, and the second person thought I was Tommy Steele, and the third person got it. I was really chuffed about that whole connection of...
I love Tommy Steele. I went to see Tommy Steele at the London Palladium and something years ago, and I was on this blag. I used to be an actor, so when I was in London, I had this little scam where I got free tickets.
All right.
And my brother Nick, who you just met,
was coming up to London for the weekend or whatever. I said, I'll get tickets just to see Tommy Steele, just because it doesn't matter what part he played. He'd always come on with this big toothy grin, and it could be a drama scene. Someone could be dying. And, you all right, mate? You all right? So it's pretty. You're in good company there.
Yeah, I was at the Palladium week before last. Actually, I got roped in to do one song.
Yeah. I saw
with
that.
Susie Quattro and Boy George. It's kind of fun. And the only time I've ever been at the Palladium before that was to go and see a panto or see Tommy Steele doing Singing in the Rain in the 60s.
With his big smile.
Yeah.
So there you go, full circle again.
Yeah.
Now, I saw that with Susie Quattro. Susie Quattro was one of the last big named artists to play the Cavern.
Oh, right.
She played it in 74 when the Cavern had moved over the road to the new Cavern. Because it moved over the road for like a year and a half. It didn't last. Yeah, but she was the last big name.
Good.
It'd be great to get her back. Yeah, it looked like a good show there.
Yeah, it was good. And I did that song Stumbling with her. And in fact, I'd done it earlier in the year at the 100 Club because she was doing like a TV show podcast thing. And I thought I was doing the show with a bloke, is it Chris from Smokey, and I wanted to apologise to him. Because I remember at the height of punk, I went down the Speakeasy in London, and everybody's punks, and there was a guy at the bar with like a real earlier 70s kind of flares on and big lapels with piano keyboards on them.
Oh, right.
Right, like...
That's almost as bad as a piano tie.
Yeah, and I went, oh... That's a great jacket, mate. Taking the mick, and he went, "Oh, do you like that? My mum made that."
No,
And I was kind of risey to him. And I thought I was going to be doing the song with him. What's his name? Chris something from Smokey. And I walked in, and there was Boy George. And I said, "Are you?" He said, "I'm the new bloke from Smokey."
That's brilliant. Boy George randomly, you're in our office at the moment, I have to say. This is our very fancy podcast studio, which we botched up the other week. But it does look, when you look at it, it looks like we are sitting on the Cavern stage. But there was a random time Boy George came into our old office just to use the, I think it was to use the internet or the fax. It was like years ago. It was bizarre. One of those, it's Boy George comes in and none of us, we thought, well, it's just, yeah, all right, do you want a cup of tea? None of us just like, I don't know if he was really pissed off that no one made a fuss or it was a nice relief. But a nice guy.
He is.
It's so anyway, welcome back to Liverpool. You're doing an event when we're recording this at the BME, British Music
I've got
Experience.
a book out called Triggers.
Now, the book, like, this is your second book, isn't it? Because the first one was 1990, which was the title. I've got the cheap young Sex Pistol.
I was a teenager.
I was a teenager. I thought it was teenage in the title.
Yeah.
So this is different because this is through.
Well, you can't write the same thing twice.
Exactly, yeah. But a lot of people do, though. A lot of people try that, don't they?
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to try a little bit harder than that. But it was suggested to me that maybe I did a book around song titles and songs that I've written, had a hand in writing, people I've played with, or songs that I dug, which have affected me, and the stories behind them. What kind of led to it.
Well, that's what I thought was a bit different and fascinated by.
Yeah,
because those
I don't think I'm the only one who's done that.
Okay.
I think McCartney did that. I found out afterwards.
Right. Okay. But these songs. I mean, the songs, like, a song takes you back to a time. We all know that. So I mean, is this going back to like your influences as well, or what got you into music?
Yeah, I think one of the earliest songs in it is "Dead End Street" by the Kinks, which kind of I related to when I heard it when it came out. The way we was living. And
so you would have been what, about 10, 11 then?
Something like that. But all that kind of period, that's kind of what got me going. When I was a really young kid, my Uncle Colin, who was only about 10 years older than me, gave me his old 78s. And the first records I actually put on were like a whole lot of shaking going on and Hound Dog and stuff like that, and a big old valve radiogram.
What a place to start.
Yeah. And then, through the early 60s, didn't have a proper radio station. All we had was... the sound of the swinging cymbals, that's called. Jimmy, what's his face? It's chart rundown on a Sunday. And then on Saturday morning, the Brian Matthews show, who played like the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five, interspersed with clips from Hancock's Half Hour and the Navy Lark and Around the Horn, which was outrageous.
Yeah.
Absolutely outrageous.
So you're watching that as a kid? Yeah.
Well, I mean, sitting around, Sunday dinner and having Round the Horn on the radio, and then Julian and Sandy come trolling in the Polari term. It's like, what's this all about? I didn't quite understand. Your mum and your nana laughing their head off, and you think, this is a bit...
It's a bit out there.
It's very out there.
But the Kinks, I mean,
But anyway, so I'll just
I'm just
go
thinking
on.
the Kinks must have resonated with you.
Yeah, but through that little period, and the transistor radios sort of started coming out. Music is kind of allied to some kind of invention. You wouldn't have had rock and roll if you didn't have tape echo, and so you had to have a tape recorder, have tape echo. Little inventions like that kind of feed into things. Everybody all the kids had a cheap transistor radio under the pillow at night. And then you'd fiddle with it, and then you could get Radio Luxembourg or American Forces Network. And then all the pirate radio stations started up, and that's where the Kinks and the Who and the Stones came through,
So that's when it became interesting, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing, with interviews with you and other things you read, is this like, he was into the Beatles, Glen's a big Beatle fan, which we all know that's,
Well, I kind of appreciated them.
But it was more like the Kinks, the Small Faces.
Well, I mean, there was this whole thing. I'm a Londoner, right? And I'm proud, born and bred Cockney wanker, right? Yeah. And it was like Beatles this and Beatles that, and Brian Paul and the Tremolos and Ferry across the Mersey. Where's the Mersey? Well, it's not the Silk Stream that runs through Finchley, and then goes down to Brentford. What's that all about? And then the Dave Clark 5 came along with a Tottenham sound. Yeah. But then all these London bands started happening, who spoke in Cockney accents. And I was like, hooray at last. And then out of that, for me, the pick of the bunch, although I really dug the Kinks, because Ray Davies is our greatest living songwriter. Although I did put my foot in it with him once, so I'll get back to that. But... and that were the Small Faces. I loved them because they were little blokes, and as a young kid, you can kind of relate to them a bit more.
Yeah, they were more, completely different to the Beatles. The Beatles, I mean, it's weird because we're discussing this in Liverpool, where, of course, very proud of the Beatles and all that. But there's a whole world out there, isn't there? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Only found out recently the Small Faces we interviewed. We had a chat with Billy Butler, he was the Cavern DJ from 1964 to 70. And he's a BBC presenter, he's a radio presenter, legend in Liverpool. And there's always been this myth if the Small Faces play the Cavern, then he just casually, they're not on the T-shirt, they haven't got the brick in the wall like yourself. Right. But he said, oh no, the Small Faces definitely played, which is, we got no record of it, but everyone came through the Cavern in those days.
Well, I should think it was all on the scene, really.
Yeah, it's on the circuit.
Yeah, I have to ask him. Ask? There's only Kenny Jones left to ask now.
Well, Kenny's played. He came and did. He's done a few gigs. Probably the last time was about 20 years ago.
What, with the Jones gang?
Yeah, he did a couple of dates. It was a charity thing he ended up doing. He was great. They're not on the wall, so we need to find out. But you're on the wall. We inducted you. I think it was 2016 into the Cavern Wall of Fame.
Yeah, with Slick.
With Earl Slick, yeah, our mutual friend. We were talking on that. You said that he ended up with you during lockdown, which I was speaking to at the time, I think, because he was due to do some gigs here. Like everybody else, the whole thing was closed down.
Well, we did actually play here. I don't know if you remember that time. Well, that's when we came and he had the brick in the wall.
Yeah, 2016.
Right.
I think it was 2016.
When was lockdown?
2020. So it was a bit before.
What happened to those 4 years?
No. I don't know if you're like...
Where did they go?
I don't know. Are you like me? You get confused. When was lockdown? When did that happen? When did the world
it's kind
stop?
of one of those things you put out your mind a little bit.
I don't even like saying the word, but it does.
What word?
That, L begins with an L. Oh. Yeah. And all that other crap. But anyway, no, L was saying that he ended up staying with you for quite a while during lockdown.
Yeah.
Were you doing music together?
We did I didn't turn my phone off. We did a few FaceTime live things, which was kind of funny. But the thing is, you do one week and you think, oh, it went down well, we'll do one another week. You can't play the bloody same songs again So we had to learn another hour's worth of stuff. And then
so it was a whole like hours gig?
Yeah, and we did it 4 times. And then before he finally slung his hook and went back to America, I got an upgraded little desk with a few more inputs in it. And we sat around the table and played everything that we learnt. So I got about 6 hours of the stuff that we'd learnt, but the extra 2 hours are us moaning about everybody.
Well, that's
it's funny.
Well,
it's like the Basement Tapes or Derek and Clive.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I refer to you as the odd couple, but I think...
Well, we was, and proudly so.
Yeah.
I'm the Jack Lemmon in the arrangement, and he's the what's his name?
Walter Matthau.
Yeah. Bloke. But the other thing, just before that word we don't mention Rockdale, I could see it coming, and I thought this is going to go on for a while. And my son is in a band, he's doing quite well, and he decided...
What's the name of the band so we can...
Wargasm.
Oh,
They're
nice.
doing all right, but he was still getting it together then, and he could see lockdown was coming. And I said to him, look, then he was going to go to Londonderry because the girl in his band, her mum had a farmhouse there, and he could go there and make a noise, and work on a record. So I said, look, I'll run you to the airport as long as you come round the shop round the corner from me. There's a sort of an ironmonger's, and I got a year's worth of emulsion paint, right, just in case. Drove him to Heathrow, and as I dropped him off, and as I was driving back, they announced lockdown.
Right.
So now I've got a year's worth of paint, and me and El looked at it for kind of about 3 months, and he said he'd help me with it. And I thought, lockdown. I'm one of these people. My dad used to say, Glenn, you'll never do it today, but you can put off till tomorrow, will you? And I thought he was about right. So we kept looking at it. But really, the better idea, instead of doing FaceTime live gigs, would have been doing a live stream with me and Earl up the ladder, and overalls.
That would have been good.
Hey, you missed a bit. What do you mean I missed a bit? It would have been funny.
And Earl would still be dressed as Earl as well in this scenario.
Well,
and your hair would still be Glenn's hair as well.
Yeah, bit of paint in it.
These things are important.
Famous Liverpudlians.
Okay,
I'm staying down on the front on the Strand.
Yeah.
And every time I come down here, and I played here with Blondie year before, last year.
I think it was year before, 22.
And then you got a bit of time to kill. Always I walk and see the Billy Fury statue there.
Oh, Billy Fury, yeah.
Well, Billy Fury is a plaque on the wall in St John's Wood, which is just up from where I live, opposite McCartney's house.
Okay.
Right, and I can imagine McCartney saying to Billy, yeah, well, Billy, I'm thinking of moving down to London. You got any ideas? And Billy Fury goes, well, actually, there's a house up for sale opposite me. Why don't you check that out? Can you imagine that kind of thing going on? But in the early 80s, there was this woman called Joan Kamowski who used to have these great parties. And in fact, she ended up marrying a drummer from Slade.
Right.
But she had these great parties, and she was like sitting tenant in this mansion block on the Euston Road, Marylebone Road. And I went there one night, and it was in my Brownell days, and I was a bit hammered. She had quite a big hallway. It was like an Edwardian mansion block thing. And there was a little baby grand piano. So I'm trying to play badly Blueberry Hill, which I can't really play it, but it wasn't going to stop me. No. And they all got annoyed with me, and they went, Glenn, for God's sake, blinking shut up, go and have a lie down, which I did. 10 minutes later, I thought, I'm not having this. They're in there, they won't notice if I play Blueberry Hill. In those 10 minutes, about 2 o'clock in the morning, there'd been a knock at the door, and this guy turned up, uninvited, who was actually sweet on Joan. This is before she got married. And he was kind of not that welcome. But I've started playing Blueberry Hill on the piano again. And to ingratiate himself with her, he went, oh, Glenn, come on, it's a bit late now. Come on, why don't you go and have a lie down again? I looked at him and I went, all right. And it was Billy Fury. Billy Fury put me to bed.
See, I was wondering where this was going. I thought, we've gone random here.
I'm like,
Okay, this is the early 80s then, okay. He passed away 83.
It was not. It was only about a month or so after that he passed away.
No, that's great. He put you
Lovely
to bed.
bloke.
He was. I didn't know Billy. I got to know his mum and his
See, that
brother.
could have been the title of my book.
Yeah.
Billy Fury tucked me in.
Took me in. Were you a Billy Fury fan?
Oh, yeah, I can appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he
was
did
great.
some- and
but
he-
what was good about him was that he wrote his own songs. He
Yeah.
was one of the few people who kind
Absolutely.
of did that at that stage,
But,
you know.
but for the Beatles and for all those bands that came out of that Mersey beat, he was talking about the Kinks, how you got into the Kinks because they were like London guys and they were doing it and they're showing away. If they're doing it, that was the same with Billy Fury because he was our first pop star.
Yeah.
So he was like, the Beatles.
What first Liverpool pop star Alpha?
Yeah, really, yeah, rock and roll star, yeah, and the Beatles famous.
Our one, well, the really first British pop star was Tommy Steele.
Tommy Steele, yeah, of
First
course.
one,
Even
well,
before
rock-
Marty and Cliff.
56,
Yeah,
Rock with a Caveman.
yeah.
With the most ludicrous lyrics ever. They're fantastic. Do you know the lyrics?
Go on.
This is just after the Piltdown Man, right?
Yeah.
The Piltdown Popper sings this song. Archaeology has done me wrong. The British Museum's got my head. Most unfortunate because I ain't there to say rock with a
That's
cave.
just terrible.
And it was written by him, Lionel Bart,
Oh, no.
and Ed Pratt. Now, do you know who Ed Pratt
I
was?
don't know. No,
Well, Ed Pratt is Guy Pratt, who's now in Pink Floyd's dad.
right.
And he was the dead bloke in Randall and Upkirk Deceased.
As in the Rock and Tears.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. And Guy Pratt, that's brilliant.
So that all feeds in.
I used to be an actor. I was telling you before. I did a Billy Fury musical tour for about a year, and it was all those characters. Larry Barnes. I played Hal Carter. Did you ever
I
come
don't know
across
him.
Hal Carter? He was on the famous tour with Eddie Cochran, Gene Vincent, Billy Fury. He was the tour manager on that, and
Joe Brown was on it.
yeah, Joe was on it as well. But Hal Carter was the tour manager, worked for Pounds, ended up managing Billy Fury for years, and he was from Liverpool. So I played him in this musical. But there's some characters then, wasn't there?
Well, they were. But just going back to Joe Brown, tail end of lockdown, when it was lifting, I was finishing off on a couple of tracks with the album that I made with Earl, and then I wrote a couple of new songs, and I could then get in the studio with my mate James Halliwell. He plays with the Water Boys now. He's a really good keyboard player, but as an engineer as well. And as we was leaving the studio, the phone rang, and my mate James had been quite pleased at telling me that Joe Brown was going to come and play a mandolin overdub for the Water Boys, or one of the tracks that who's the main guy in the Water Boys?
Mike Scott.
Mike Scott, for a song that he'd written. Anyway, the phone rings and he's going, "Oh, hello, Joe. We're outside. I'm about to get in my car." I'm going, "Let me talk to him. And he goes, "Oh, hello. Who's this?" I said, "It's Glenn." Oh, he said, "Oh, yeah, James told me about you, Glen Matlock. Yeah, pleased to meet you, mate. He said, "I'm Joe." I said, "I know who you are. A big fan." He went, "Yeah, right." He said, "Never mind that, though." He said, "Look, James wants me to do this session for him on Thursday." Right? And I said, "Yeah." He said, "But the thing is," he said, "I'd love to do the session." He said, "But you got to explain to him, I can't. Not on Thursday." I said, "Well, why not?" He said, "Well, it's been locked down, and this is the first day the pubs are going to be open. I've promised to go and have a drink with my mates. I can't leave them out of it, can I?"
Quite right, absolutely, yeah.
It was just the way he said it. It was like repleting with me.
Oh, that's brilliant, that. He's a legend. I mean, he's played the Cavern. He's been a guest there a few times. He's a good friend of George Harrison, of course, wasn't he? Yeah. Now there's yeah.
Well, all that kind of crowd, because I did a bit of stuff for the Faces, and I was big mates with Ian McLagan and Kenny and all that. But they're all kind of family somehow.
Yeah, it's all connected, and it's all that business. What was it? When you did the Faces reunion with Mick Hucknall.
Yeah.
What was your? Did you think that was a good choice as a vocalist initially?
Everybody wanted Rod to do it. He didn't do it for whatever reason, and I wasn't really party to that. But to me, the Faces were always a great rock band with a great soul singer.
Yeah.
And it still was.
Yeah.
And he got stick for doing it. He knows he's not Rod, but he still did it anyway because he was a fan. He's a great singer.
Yeah. Well, well, it goes back to Eric's as well. I mean, Mick Hucknall was, Frantic Elevators, played. One of their nation grounds was Eric's, and I saw Mick in that format, years, right at the beginning of it, and you could tell then he had something. I remember going to see Simply Red, and I got comps. I wasn't a fan, and it was a bit, for me, it's a bit wishy washy. I don't know. What a frontman! I couldn't believe he's so charismatic as a frontman as well, and his voice is incredible.
I had a fantastic thing with him. I could get away with a lot with him because he started off as a foul punk rocker, right, and I didn't, right.
Yeah.
And so we didn't do that many shows, but we did maybe about a dozen shows over a year and a half. And we'd done some shows, and then we'd had a little bit of a break, and then we had to assemble 7:30 in the morning at some little airfield right down the A30 in like not Hertfordshire, I don't know, west of London. And as we get there, the sun's not long come up, and there's Mick there. And he's, red-headed bloke, pal, but he's caught the sun.
Right.
I went, oh, Mick, I didn't see you. You've been away since we last played. And he said, yeah. I said, oh, where'd you go? He said, oh, I went to Spain. Whereabouts? The Basque Country. Have you been? I said, well, I've driven through it. He said, oh, I love it there. I said, why would you make you go there? And he said, well, a few years ago, I had a DNA test done. I went, yeah. And then Ronnie Wood's there starting kind of listening, right? And I said, well, what's that got to do with it? He said, well, they found sort of a bit of Basque in my DNA, which is kind of rare, which it is. And he said, I thought I'd go there. Loved it. And every chance I get, I go back there. I said, cool. He said, you should. I said, well, go to the Basque Country. I've been there. And he said, no, you should have a DNA test done. I went, oh, I don't know, Mick. He said, well, why not? I said, well, I don't know what they'll find. He said, well, like what? I said, well, they might find out I come from Manchester. And he said, well, yeah. And Ronnie's going, but I could get away with it.
Absolutely, yeah. I want to talk about Liverpool, because obviously you've been here, you played the Cavern a couple of times, and you said you were here, I think, last year with Blondie. Your first day with the Sex Pistols. Yeah. And we were talking about this. It was, you played Eric's, the famous punk club in Liverpool, which we just walked past there, which they reopened it about 10 years ago. Right. It's not the Eric's, it was. They tried to open it as a proper venue, and they were putting a lot of the original punk bands on when they first opened. But they've like everything, it's just like now a generic bar, but it's open. You played at 76 with the Pistols, and it was just round the corner. It was which you couldn't remember, which I totally understand. It was a few years ago. But was that what do you remember of that gig? Just to bring it, we were talking about Liverpool and stories and.
Well, I remember not too much about actually playing. I do remember after the show we played upstairs somewhere. There was hardly anybody there, and then we was in a hurry to go back home. But I wanted one more drink and to skive out of loading the van, and
which is usually the lead singer's job, isn't it?
Yeah, but I did used to sing one song back then.
Well, that's fair enough.
So anyway, I found a staircase that went down. There was this whole thing going on there. There was a band called the Yachts playing, and I met Clive Langer and maybe Jane Case, and there was a scene. And that, not being big-headed, but that was one of our first trips out of London, and it was kind of like, hey, there's a scene outside London. I was quite gobsmacked.
Well, that's interesting, because I would have thought, obviously it was all happening in London. But, there was,
Well, hang on. It wasn't all happening in London.
You made it happen.
For our thing, and then it was happening for, if you was in Queen or the Faces and you went to the speakeasy, but we was kind of too young and not kind of coshled up enough for that,
But presumably that wouldn't have been your sort of place to go anyway, would it?
Well, we ended up going there.
Yeah.
Me and Steve heard about the place, and we went down there about 7:30 one evening, not realising it was a late night place, and we waited and waited and waited, and we couldn't get in. No, and there's a big black limo pulled up, maybe about 8:45 by the stage. And Keith Moon got out with a couple of heavy kind of henchmen kind of thing. We're going, oh, Keith, mate, we're a big fan of yours. We got all your records. Sign us in. And he went, fuck off. But we got in and we nicked his drink.
Well, there you go. As long as you're going to get something. Now, we've all, how many times have you done that when you're younger, when you go somewhere, you just go far too early? Yeah. It's not good. It's not cool as all, is it?
What people always forget about musicians, if you're doing gigs and this, that, and that, it's work.
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
It's and that's it. And then the reason I'm doing this is I've got about 10 acoustic shows, but I've got a book out, you know, which we mentioned, Triggers. So the thing I'm doing tonight is a promo thing for that. I've not long had an album out, which is called, what's it called?
It was Consequences.
Conscious Coming.
Yeah,
And I've actually, since it's coming up with Christmas, there's a present for you.
Thanks very much.
Right.
I was going to comment on that because you've got a lovely Hofner guitar. I was listening to this last night.
Hofner President.
Yeah, that's right. I've got a few Hofners.
Well, if you've got this already, you can perhaps maybe do a little competition or something. I would have bought you an album of vinyl, but I like having my hands free. Okay, you can have a cigarette and point at something, and that slots in your coat pocket.
I was listening to it yesterday. There's the big tunes, aren't they? The big melodic tunes. That's lots of riffs on it. L's on this.
L's on a lot of it,
Yeah.
Although nothing against L, but my two favourite songs on the album are Consequences Coming and one called This Ship, which I kind of wrote in lockdown to do with, you know, the impending Brexit nonsense that we've all had kind of foisted upon us.
Well, that's been picked up a lot, hasn't it? On like when the album came out.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, in fact, I did the BBC thing. I put the cat amongst the pigeon. But anyway, on those two tracks, I actually play lead guitar on it because they all had been and gone by them. So.
No, there's some great tracks, and I loved it. I was interested about the album before that. You did the Rockabilly, Good to Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I've been.
Well, maybe more not rockabilly, but Americana.
Yeah,
kind
definitely
of
Americana.
Thing. Yeah. The album I did before, I've been doing loads of acoustic shows, which I enjoy doing. You know, one-man band, Don Partridge of the punk world kind of thing. And when I had a chance to make an album, I thought, well, I don't want like really overbearing drums on it. Who can ask? So I asked Slim Jim Phantom, who's only got half a drum kit. And although I'd met him before, I said, you got any ideas for a guitarist? And he said, well, how about Earl? Now, I didn't know that he knew Earl, but I'd actually done something with Earl, with Clem a couple of years prior to that.
Was that Slinky Vagabond? Was that?
Yeah, it was just helping somebody out, really. It's this guy, Keenan Duffy, who's an English fashion designer who lives in New York, but he knew Earl, and he knew Clem, and anyway, I went and did that. But we used the studio upstate New York in a place called Rhinebeck up the Hudson Valley. And because Earl knew the people who lived there, and Slim Jim lived in LA and I lived in London, it's a residential studio, it made sense to kind of do it there. So it just all became a bit... But anyway, I got on well with Earl. When we was doing the first song, he said, what key is this in? And I said, oh, it's in B. And he got his capo out. I said, you can't do that on my record. He said, why not? I said, it's cheating. He said, you're going to be like that, Matlock. I said, yes, I bloody well am.
And did he stick with the capo, or did he get rid of it?
Well, he has it for different songs, you know.
The lads who play on my album, or played on, including Paul, who's in the corner here, they just call me a capo prick. Because I know about 5 chords, but I just put the capo on a different... We wouldn't get on, would we?
I think it's
cheating.
Get
it is cheating. It's absolutely cheating.
Right, and then also, Earl said to me, he said, I'm not quite sure what kind of solo I should do on this one. I said, well, mate, I suggest you do a good one because it's going to have your name on the record. And if you do a bad one, you're the guy who's going to look like a Berkshire, not me. And he went, all right.
I do love
so we do have that kind of
Well, you've got to have a bit of banter. You've got to get on. But I like that album. I'm not saying I've listened to the whole album and played it, but I've been playing it, and it's rootsy. It is rockabilly. It's back. But I think this Americana thing. That's what Americana is. It's back to the roots of songwriting, whether it be blues.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, every song I've written, whether they've been successful or not, I've written on acoustic guitar. You know, with the view that somebody else is going to come along and take it to the next stage, kind of thing. But I don't sort of deliberately want to be, a rockabilly. Although I did choose and ask Slim Jim to play on me with that. But, I like the way Bowie used to play acoustic guitar with the Spiders from Mars. When he locks in with all the hi-hats, it's kind of... That's where I'm coming from on it.
Well, it's good to do something different as well. Do you, obviously you got the call from Blondie, from Clem, through your connection with Clem, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Presumably. Was it a no-brainer? Did it fit? What how was that?
Well, when we finished the Filthy Lucas tour in '96, I bumped into Clem in New York, and he said, "Don't tell anybody, but I will tell them now." We was hanging out in some bar. I said, "What are you up to?" And he said, "Well," he said, "we're thinking of reforming Blondie because they'd broken up at that stage." I said, "Well, good for you." And I said, "No, you're going to go about?" And he said, "Well, we're actually going to try and write some new songs first, which is what I wanted to do when we did the Pistols thing, but John wouldn't do it, fair enough." But then I finished the Filthy Lucas tour and I was out of the country for a bit, and it's when mobile phones were in their infancy, and I kept getting missed calls from Clem. And because I was away and I'd been touring for 9 months of the 12-month period and I was a bit knackered and I was having a bit of downtime, I didn't necessarily get back to him. Then when I got back to London, I finally got in touch with him. And he said, "Oh, let's meet up, you know." And I said, "Where?" And he said, "Oh, the Royal Garden Hotel in Kensington," which, when I was a kid, when England won a World Cup, I was 10, 1966, right? My dad took me down there and I was in his shoulders and the England team come out. There's like a balcony outside the hotel and they all got a big chair, you know, Nobby Stiles and all that and probably more, Alf Ramsey. And this little bloke came out with a Mac on and held up his dog, who got the biggest chair of the night. It was Pickles the dog. Oh. I seen Pickles the dog live in the flesh. Anyway, that's where I went to meet Clem.
All right.
I said, "Oh, what's going on?" You know, I was hoping he was going to ask me. And he said, "Oh, Glenn, meet Lee, our new bass player."
So hang on, that's 96. So it's took
Well,
you
it was probably 97 by then.
Okay, so it took you over 25 years before you actually got the nod.
Yeah, but then you know, and I've probably seen Blondie more times than any other band, just because when they come to town, you know, there's free tickets going. You know?
We spoke to Clem. He's doing an episode of this, and that comeback single, Maria. I mean, that was
good.
It was classic, wasn't it?
Just took a Destry song, that one.
Yeah, that was excellent. So you got the call. I mean, it's funny.
What happened was I was at home and I was making a risotto and I had my mate round. The phone rang and I wasn't going to answer it because the risotto was, you know, you got to catch it at the right time.
Yeah.
And they said,
I struggle with the risotto.
They went, "Who's that?" I said, "It's Clem." And they said, "Well, I'll stir that." And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm making risotto, get on with it, right?" And he said, "Well, it's not working out with Lee, the bass player, because this was pretty much straight after lockdown. I don't know why it wasn't working out, but, you know." And he said, "Can you come over?" And I said, "When, you know, a couple of months." He went, "No, next week." And I was like, "Oh." I said, "I'll think about it."
And what was the commitment? Was that for a big tour or?
It was whatever the dates were they did last year, and they were fulfilling dates that they should have done in lockdown because lots of tours had just been put back.
Yeah, it was a busy time, wasn't it? Yeah.
So that's what I did, and the first show I did, I went over to New York and rehearsed with them. I was still sorting out my work visa, and I had a show there, which I said, "I can't do this one because I've got me papers sorted out." So we came back, and the first show I did, we did the big, SEC in Glasgow. Wow. Sort of 20,000 people. It was like in at the deep end. And then, not the next night, but the night after, we was doing a similar size thing in Cardiff. But there was a night off in between, and a bit like Joe Brown promising his mates to have a drink in the pub. I did an album in lockdown with Kevin Brennan, who's a Labour MP for Cardiff West, who's one of the guys who stands up in Parliament talking about, you know, streaming and musicians' rights and all that. Okay. And I played on his album at home, you know, I just overdid the bass. And it was his album launch thing in a church in Canton in Cardiff. And I thought, well, I can't let him down. But he actually slotted in. So I went and played in his church with him.
All right, okay. But you did the Blondie gig, though.
I did them all.
Yeah. You fitted them all in. Yeah. I remember seeing...
I like that, though. It's like...
No, absolutely. But isn't that... I mean, I follow you on Instagram. I remember seeing all the pictures when you joined Blondie, suddenly in a pink suit and looking very dapper. Your hair looked great.
I had a pink suit?
Well, I don't know. You all had nice, fancy suits. Was it not pink?
It's blue. I'm not really a pink kind of guy. Blue.
Maybe Clem was in the pink.
Yeah.
You all had smart suits on. It was a definite look, isn't it?
Do you know what's good about touring with Blondie? They got a wardrobe bloke.
Yeah.
And you just have to take... When you're on tour, with doing your own thing, you've got to take clothes you're wearing during the day, then you got to wear something for the gig, and you got to have a few changeable things. Otherwise, you can't have the same thing all the time, unless you're Alex Harvey, right? Who wore the same outfit for his whole career, and had a blue and white kind of hooped, like Queen's Park Rangers thing. And then halfway through his career, he must have put it in the wash with a red sock because it was pink and blue, and he still wore it. Right? So unless you like that, so you got to have a change of clothes, stage clothes, and then something to change it into after the gig. Now.
It's all done for you.
It's all done for you.
What about your hair? Do you do your own hair?
Do my own hair.
You got no one to do your hair? Cool. I bet there is.
Do you think I am?
Oh, you know,
a bit too high and mighty.
Well, you could
just do it. Like
What's the? Do you still enjoy the fact? I mean, I think you do. I mean, I think I might have read this, but that one night you're doing like a bit like that with the Cardiff gig for you, the MP. That 1 minute there's 20,000 there. Next minute you're doing what you're doing tonight, like a little Q&A.
Yeah.
20. Does that interest you? That because you're a working musician. It's
just all strings to the bow. If you only ever do all the little things at my age, I probably would have given up a long time ago. But I'm fortunate that every now and then I know the phone will probably ring, which it does do.
But getting that call for Blondie though, man, that's
I'm proud of it, you know. And also, like before we started recording this, as you mentioned, the Danny Boyle thing. And I was disappointed. It could have been really good. I was kind of pivotal in it going ahead, you know, with the song
that's what surprised me, that the three of you were all behind it. Is that right? It was John that wasn't.
But it was a politics thing, really.
Always is.
Steve formed the band. It was Steve's band.
Yeah.
John was a big integral part of it, but I don't think any of it would have happened if any of us hadn't done our particular bit, you know, even the ancillary workers, you know, like Jamie Reid and stuff like that. Yeah. Everybody played a part. But it was Steve's band, and I thought, if he can't write his book and have a TV show made about his story and kind of consult people, and they offered to consult John, he didn't want to know because he wasn't in control. So it became a sort of a moral maze kind of question. So I thought, yeah, okay, and I met up with Danny Boyle, and it was I was assured of certain things, but it didn't come out like that. And
you'd expect safe hands, wouldn't you, with Danny Boyle?
Would have thought so.
You would have thought. But I mean, the portrayal of you and you leaving the Pistols, or as it showed,
it's bollocks.
Yeah, well, I know that from
it's bollocks. But it was embarrassing because I went to see it. I had a private screening, and Clem came with me. He was staying at the time, and a couple of neighbour friends, and my son Louis, and I watched it, and I was embarrassed, you know. And my son said, no, it was embarrassing as such. He said, but, you know, as I understand it, Dad, what you did, and Paul, he knows Paul as well, he said that you were just like two-dimensional characters, you know.
Yeah. I thought it was lazy. It was lazy the way you were portrayed.
And there was a bit, I actually went to see, I don't know, just before or just after the Elvis movie.
What did you think of that?
Well, I enjoyed it, but there was a bit early on in the you know, when Elvis was just discovered, and somebody says, hey, I went to see this guy last night, and some person says, yeah, he fuses black music, and then the other person says, yeah, with white country and western, right? And it was like a real obvious device.
Yeah.
And you can see it coming, you know, and that was the same. It was the same script writer. It was the stuff, you know.
Just clumsy. I mean,
lazy.
Lazy is about everyone, isn't it? Yeah. No, I agree with you. You know, when the Pistols got back together, which was for, you know, for presumably for money reasons.
Not only that. No.
Yeah. But you were integral to that, weren't you?
But what happened was, I'd made an album for Creation in '95, and I was waiting for it to come out. And then in later 1995, there's a mate of mine, Calvin Hayes, who's Mickey Mo's son, who ended up in that band Johnny H. Jazz.
Yeah.
I think he'd already been in by then. He was living in LA, and he said, I found this fantastic singer. And he said, come over and let's check out this guy. Why don't you bring Steve New with you? And I'm sort of waiting on my album coming out. Who does he think he is when he's at home? So I thought, yeah, all right, come over, and Calvin put me up, and Steve came and we tried out this guy. Great guy, wasn't quite right for what I wanted to do. So I was just kicking my heels, really, in Los Angeles. And he said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, you know what, Cavern, I haven't spoken to Steve Jones for about 17 years. And I went, no, I've said some right old shite about me. Anyway, the next day, Cavern said, look, I've got Steve's number, why don't you call him? And I went, And every day for about a week, he said, have you called him yet? I went, no. He said, call him. This went on, and I finally picked up the phone, and I went, Steve? And he went, is that Glenn? And I said, yeah. He said, I heard you was in town, come over. So I drove up to his place up in the Hollywood Hills. And as soon as I got there, he said, let's go and see Jon. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Venice Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we called Paul from Jon's place back in England, but you know, the time difference, he didn't answer. And then we went out and had some lunch. And then we come back, Paul had called back and left a message on Steve's answer machine. And it just set a training process. And at that stage, Steve was really keen to do it.
Was Steve and Jon talking in that case at that time?
Not particularly.
Okay, so...
But enough, maybe.
Yeah.
And it set a training process, and pretty short notice, the Filthy Lucre tour come together because it was a real big deal thing.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, we did nearly 100 gigs in big places all around the world. But if I hadn't made that call, it would never have happened.
No. So that,
and I hadn't even been thinking about it. I just thought I'd just go and see
isn't
Steve.
it bizarre how these things happen?
But that's probably maybe the best way that it does happen.
But is that one of those situations? I remember speaking to Bruce Foxton, and he was saying because him and Paul, didn't speak for years, and they now do speak.
Right.
And the catalyst for that was Bruce had lost his wife to cancer, and Paul had lost his father. But he was saying, he said, I was chatting. He said, I'm just glad that we're talking again. But I don't want to be hanging out there. But it's just like your old mates. Was it like that, or was it more business?
I think the Pistols, the four of us, we got something in common that nobody else in the whole world has, and it's that we're the Sex Pistols. When we get in the room and plug in and play, no matter what song we play, it sounds like the Sex Pistols. We all, regardless of any kind of friendships and stuff, we learnt to play together.
Yeah.
And it's something to be celebrated, or it was then, and earn a good few bob out of.
Absolutely.
Why not? And the other thing is that what any of us have done in our career, it's always measured against the Sex Pistols. Even Jon, it drives you mad. Oh, it's nothing like the Sex Pistols. It's not supposed to be.
It's not meant to be.
But, sometimes you think, I'll give people what I want.
And will you do that again?
The only thing with that is you're getting somewhere slowly with what you're doing, and you do the Pistols thing and all that, and everybody loves it, or they don't, or whatever, and when you go back to your thing, you're back to square one again.
Well, I read that because you as you say, your first album came out, which sort of then segued into the Pistols getting back together, and that album's it's hard to get that listened to then, isn't it?
Yeah.
But are there any more Pistols? You think is that it?
I think we've done it now. Never say never again, but since the movie and the court case and stuff. But it don't bother me,
No.
I'm pretty. I mean, at the moment, I'm booked up with stuff I'm doing and Blondie and other things I'm doing. I'm booked up now to next September.
Yeah.
Which at the age of 67's not bad.
No, that's great.
And I, if somebody said, "Oh, come and do a Pistols tour in January," I go, well, "Actually, I don't think I can fit it in."
Yeah, what a nice position to be in.
It is. Yeah.
Are you doing the Lust for Life tour?
I'm doing that
as well. Yeah.
But again, I only did it because Tony Sales was supposed to be doing it, and something didn't go quite right with his paperwork.
Yeah.
And about a week before, Clem called me up and said, "We're stuck. Can you come and do this?"
Super sub.
But I enjoyed it,
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work with Katie Puckrick, but she was great.
Yeah, because you did the Cavern last time. I think it's at the O2, maybe the next year.
Is it?
But,
I
I don't know. It's not with us anyway. But that you'd be back in Liverpool for that. What about the Blondie's new album? You're on that, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's
I haven't heard it yet. Clem
okay.
sent me the mixes last night, but I haven't opened them up yet. So
So Blondie, I mean, you know, the association with that doesn't look like that's going anywhere. You know, that's going to stay for a while. Blondie, they seem to be flying.
It's fun. You know, a good bunch of people. Debbie's lovely.
Yeah,
Sings great. You know, I mean, when we started rehearsing, we was rehearsing in Hoboken. They got a place there they use, and the sound bloke, he said, "Oh, can everything all right, Glenn?" You know, I said, "You could turn Debbie up a bit." And he said, "Well, it's pretty loud, can't you hear her?" I said, "No, I like it. Just turn it
I
up."
just wanted to hear it. Yeah. No, she's great, Debbie. But we're asking every single guest now. I should have done this in advance. We're doing a Cavern Podcast Spotify playlist,
Right.
where you've got to choose your three top songs by Liverpool artists. Now, considering, you know, it can't be the Kinks, and it can't, you know,
Well, I think we're going to have a Billy Fury, you know.
Okay,
Halfway to Paradise.
Halfway to Paradise, great song.
I think, even though I'm a Londoner, I think Ferry Across the Mersey, bro.
Well, I think
Is that he wrote that, didn't he?
No, he did. No.
I thought he wrote it. I thought he'd made a fortune out of it being the B-side to Relax.
No, I don't think Paul's going to have a look at this. I don't think Jerry famously wrote "Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying," which is just, do you know that one? It's
Yeah,
really
I know that song, yeah.
It's a great song. He wrote that one, which is a beautiful song. Ferry Across the Mersey, did he write that? You're gonna look great in Liverpool, and I'm gonna look like a total idiot who doesn't know. But Paul's googling that one as we speak.
Is it going to have Liverpool in the title or something?
No, just songs by Liverpool artists. Jerry was, I mean,
don't tell him I think it's great, but
No.
I think Wiley's.
Just say written by Jerry Marsden, yeah.
okay, well, we're going with that.
there
We're
you
going
go.
with that. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so, I mean, Jerry Marsden, God rest his soul, good friend of the Cavern. We love Jerry. I actually did his last interview before he passed away for our documentary. Lovely guy. So he wrote that, so that's going in.
Well, I've got two now, haven't I?
Yeah, you got two. So we got Billy Fury,
Yeah.
who's, you know, love Billy Fury, who never played the Cavern. A lot of people thought he must have played the Cavern.
He was probably pre-Cavern.
Exactly, yeah. I mean,
I reckon he would have done
he would have done, but
if he hadn't taken off before.
yeah, exactly. I mean, Cavern in January '57, he was already established. By the time they were allowing rock and roll in, he was already established. Okay, so we've got Billy Fury, and you're gonna go on to our good friend Mr. Pete Wiley, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a few you could pick from. He's a great songwriter.
He is. I mean,
And he knows it.
and he's back out there.
And he'll tell you about it.
Well, you were in a band with him, weren't you? Like a loose project.
It was a loose kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, what was?
I was talking to Mick Jones. I mean, this is quite a while back. You know Pete, and said he said you heard that song on Riley's album. And, it's a bit good. Which is Your Mother Must Be Very Proud. It's very scathing kind of thing. Story of the Blues, Heart Bigger Than
Story of the Blues.
Story of the Blues, great song.
Which one?
Actually, I very rarely go out and buy records unless it's some old Blue Note jazz thing, or I've got all my records now. But I did actually go out and buy a single. Put Story of the Blues in there.
Okay, Story of the Blues.
But when I'm walking back, I will think, I should have had so and so, or I should have had so and so.
Well, you can always text me. We can always change it, because we'll do a little outro to this.
Why is Julie Driscoll got a brick in the wall? Has she got any connections with Liverpool?
No, but she played here. She played here when we did that wall. This is the Cavern Wall of Fame opposite the Cavern, which we inducted you in 2016. When the original wall was done, it was our 40th anniversary, so 1997. It was all of the artists, all the bands. They weren't established names. Anyone who played the original Cavern Club when it opened in 57 to 73, and she played, would have been about 66 with Rod.
Steam Packet.
Yeah, with Rod Stewart, and
I saw
would have been Steam Packet.
Yeah, and Long John Baldry.
Yeah. So that's why she's on the wall.
I
Yeah.
met him once, Long John Baldry.
He was a character, wasn't
He was funny. We went really early Pistols days, even before we met John. We ended up crashing this party down the wrong end of the King's Road, from sort of Parsons Greenway. And there was a couple of mates of Stephen Paul's who used to go down. There was this black guy called Cedric. I remember, nice bloke. He was a bodybuilder, right? We went to this party, and it turns out, you remember that MP who got done for trying to disappear off the beach, John Stonehouse?
he? Yeah.
It was his going. He'd resurfaced it. It was his going away party. right round this house, right? I don't know how, he was going to be sentenced the next day or something like that. It was all a bit weird.
He was making the most of it.
He was there, and there was Long John Baldry on the couch, and I went into the kitchen to get a beer and come back, and as I came back, Long John Baldry sitting on the couch going, oh, they're big and strong, and he's feeling Cedric's biceps.
Well, when he said Cedric, I thought you're probably going that way, yeah? Yeah.
No, he was just some straight bodybuilding bloke, but Long John Baldry went.
Yeah.
There was a great quote from Rod Stewart the other day. He was talking about Steam Packet or some old article I read where he said, oh, yeah, and Long John Baldry and long, gay as a lark, John Baldry, you know. I saw some clip of them doing the marquee or the 100 Club. It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good. In fact, I follow, and he follows me back, Brian Auger. It was on his Twitter page. He put it up.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise that Brian Auger had been the keyboard player in Steam Packet.
Yeah. But all these names, we the last few years especially, we've been buying up our own history. So we've got all these flyers and handbills and all those names are all on those.
But I like having that kind of knowledge about, how we get to now, by the process of being there, and all this was in between.
But it's all, I mean, sure.
And it was kind of a little bit before my time, you know.
Yeah.
It was,
But this is where everyone's laying the roots, is what I always say about the Beatles. I mean, they were paving the way, but it wasn't. It was all those early artists. They were doing everything for the first time, and it's all linked and trying.
And that's why I'm enjoying. And I think it's important, this book, and I must crack on with finishing it, because on the next chapter I was just about to start, and then I got busy. A 15-year-old guy turns up with a guitar, to like Larry Parnes' office or something like that. Yeah. Mark Bolan.
Oh, okay.
He's a good East End boy, who's kind of been with.
So he turns up on Larry Parnes' door.
It's one of them, or something to do with Joe Meek, or it's all in there, but it's all interrelated. But a lot of these people, from reading this book, somebody can be really good, but equally, some people are really good, but they don't have a good manager.
Yeah. It's all about opportunities, isn't it?
Yeah.
Opportunities and getting on with people. What was the name of that book again? Because I'm going to check that out.
Velvet Mafia.
Okay.
And it was recommended by a semi-local lad, John Savage.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up now. We need to let you go and get on down to the BME.
Yeah.
Which is so the format of these, you're playing a few songs.
Well, it's a Q&A. I'll chat, take some questions, and play a few songs at the end and then sign stuff.
Excellent. Well, I hope it goes well.
Sort of schmoozing. You going to come?
Yeah, I'll come down. Yeah,
I'll put you
great.
Jam, do you want to bring anybody?
Yeah, I'll see.
Got a date?
Yeah, well,
you plus one, you plus two.
Yeah, but that'll be great.
When I'm walking back, text me with who you want to know on the thing.
Will do. That'd be great. But thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for the nice cup of coffee.
Yeah, it was all right, wasn't it? Oh, it's in the Cavern mug as well.
Club, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want any merch while you're here? What, you don't want a Cavern book or anything? No. Got a really nice Cavern.
Do you know what? I'm not being funny, but I'm constantly trying to have a sort out at home.
You get to that age, don't you?
Yeah, and I just end up with more stuff.
See, I don't collect things. You know who's the worst for when he comes here? And I was taking.
Clem.
No. Clem's not. No.
Clem will have anything that's good.
No, it's Earl.
Oh, is he?
Oh, we stock the merch up when he's coming. He's outrageous. Terrible. How's everything? Doesn't matter. But anyway, thanks for coming in.
All right, thanks for having us.
The Cavern Podcast. Cheers. Enjoyed it.
But
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cavern Podcast, and we hope you enjoyed it. Remember, we can't do this without you, the audience. So please like, share, and subscribe from wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, get involved on our socials and tell us your Cavern stories. See you next time on the Cavern Podcast.